Part 52. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 511. Seeing Suchen's surprised expression, Demon Lord smiled with a hint of vicissitudes of life and said, "Are you shocked? In fact, the other 6 realms are also composed of various races. Oh, by the way, the Heaven realm, the God realm and the Paradise realm have a deep connection with those foreign players. They are all civilizations from the same living planet, but there are hundreds of millions or hundreds of millions of years between them. You see, those flying dragons, etc. are the species they brought from their home planet and were transformed into what they are today. Later, some of them joined the demon world. The jade dragon god you killed was a leader who rebelled from the heaven and fled to the demon world." Suchen was even more shocked. In the earth, there were actually many civilizations. The Jade Emperor of the Heaven, the God King of the Gods, and the Tathagata of the Bliss realm all migrated from the earth. No wonder in the modern world, there are legends, there are so many ancient myths, how similar they are to the world of heaven, gods, and paradise. The source is actually here. Oh, by the way, actually speaking, the Ming-Seing ancient clan has a very deep connection with you and other foreign players, and with the 3 realms of heaven, God, and bliss. The so-called Fate Star, as you foreign players call it, seems to be called Mars. I don't know yet. Is it the Fate Star civilization that has inherited the previous civilizations of heaven, God realm, and paradise and developed them to the extreme? You have inherited the civilization of the Destiny Star, or you have exchanged and transformed each other. Haha, but who can tell clearly about the past events that have been buried in the long river of history? The Demon Lord smiled. Suchen's eyes widened. The Destiny Star is actually Mars. The so-called ancient tribe, are they actually Martians? My space fortress was man-made by Mars. Grandma, what a bear! If this God's Domain online game hadn't come to the real world so soon, and given another few decades for Earth civilization to develop, I'm afraid we could have unearthed an ancient civilization on Mars, right? How much of a sensation will it cause to the entire Earth world by then? Immediately afterwards, Suchen was suddenly startled and asked, "Has the home planet where my foreign players are located also experienced many epical catastrophes?" Demon Lord nodded and said, "Not bad, in fact, all other major races have some connections with each other. Because this epical catastrophe does not only happen once on a civilized planet, but once it is discovered that the civilization on these planets has reached a certain level, such a catastrophe will occur and all of them will be destroyed." Suchen was horrified and moved. What the Demon Lord said was very similar to the world structure of a book he had read on Earth before called Online Games, I Have 10 Times the Injury. Could it be that, there is some extremely powerful existence that deliberately led the catastrophe of these civilizations? Suchen frowned and said. Like, but not like, the Demon Lord hesitated and said, if these civilizations were destroyed because they were too powerful, then as our 6 realms of gods and demons are so powerful, they have already surpassed any destroyed civilization in the past, but why have they never suffered destruction for hundreds of millions of years? If there is really a powerful existence that is leading these catastrophes, then the feeling given to this deity, it seems that this existence is not very intelligent and acts mostly according to instinct rather than some deep conspiracy. Suchen heard this in disbelief and blurted out, "You mean, the existence that leads these catastrophes, is a staff?" Demon Lord. He was a little funny, but also said solemnly, "If it is really a staff maker, he is also an extremely powerful staff maker." This time it was Suchen's turn to be silent. With such a loyal audience like Suchen, the Demon Lord became more and more enthusiastic in his conversation, and smiled again. "That guy Levaden who is following you, and the 12 ancient behemoths, their true colors are actually members of the Ming-Seing ancient clan. It was a product of failure created by being audacious and trying to play the role of the god of creation. Unexpectedly, it survived the catastrophe and became a bit of a microclimate. This is something that even the extinct ancient Ming-Xian clan never thought of. Hear this. The demon lord's smile made Suchen immediately think of the ancient tree of life. Isn't that old man also a species created by the Ming-Xian ancient clan and then survived? Afterwards, the demon lord talked about some interesting things and secrets from other walks of life. Then, he suddenly turned around and stared at Suchen motionless. A pair of 3 red and black pupils stared closely at Suchen, as if wanting to see through the latter. Suchen frowned. What are you looking at? The demon lord seemed to wake up suddenly, as if 1,000 pounds of stone were weighing on his heart. He sighed and did not answer Suchen's question. Instead, he asked, do you know why, after the Qing Emperor's army was defeated thousands of years ago, our 6 realms pursued and fiercely pursued the great Yan Empire that he left behind, and used every possible means to suppress and destroy it? Suchen sneered and said, the laughing Jade Emperor, the proud Tathagata, the God King sprinkles the ground, the Demon Queen pours tea, the Demon Lord comes to lead my horse, the Ghost King pretends to be ugly and makes fun of the lonely. I once had the privilege to read the handwriting left by the Qing Emperor. Come to think of it, it must be that you 6 realms are so angry that you are so vicious. Ha ha, ha ha, ha 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 ha. The Demon Lord smiled. And the laughter got louder and more exaggerated. He pointed at Suchen and said, does Emperor Yan of the generation also think that I, the mighty Demon Lord, only have such a small belly? I don't know what the Jade Emperor and Tathagata think, and I don't want to know, but my participation in the destruction of the great Yan Empire in the demon realm was not because of the so-called humiliation I suffered when I led the horse for the Qing Emperor. In fact, I miss the days when I held horses for Qing Emperor very much, because at that time, I and Qing Emperor talked about everything, just like you and me now. If it weren't for some reasons, with Qing Emperor's bold and awe-inspiring character, I and Qing Emperor would definitely become excellent friends. Then why did the great Yan Empire be destroyed again? Suchen raised his eyebrows. Apparently he had some doubts about the Demon Lord's words. Because I'm afraid. The Demon Lord said something that Suchen didn't expect at all. He even called himself I for the first time. Suchen had a premonition that the next words might subvert all his cognition, so he slowly stood up and asked. He said, what are you afraid of? Afraid of Subuking. Afraid of you. A look of extreme fear suddenly appeared on Demon Lord's handsome face. It was a look that could only come out when you were scared to the core. Suchen couldn't see a trace of disguise on his face. Afraid of me? Suchen was greatly surprised. With his current strength, he is by no means a match for the Demon Lord. He can only guarantee immortality under the opponent's attack. What is it about him that makes the opponent so afraid? He is as good as the Qing Emperor. To make him afraid? Demon Lord took a deep breath, slowly suppressed the huge waves of emotions in his heart, and then said in a deep voice. Thousands of years ago, the Qing Emperor was born. His aptitude and talent were unparalleled. In just a few decades, he unified the divine realm and became the Qing Emperor. He then swept across our 6 realms. With 1 man and 1 sword, he was invincible. But even though we, the 6 realms, have tried every means, we can't find out where the Qing Emperor came from. This person seemed to appear out of nowhere. The Dragon Emperor bloodline, whose name is spread all over the world, is not any bloodline in this world. In other words, it is not a bloodline at all. Rather, but a terrifying consciousness. Consciousness? Suchen said in surprise. What consciousness? The Demon Lord shook his head slowly, as if he didn't want to say it or didn't dare to say it. After pondering for a long time, he stared at Suchen and said slowly in a trembling tone, I feel the power of the catastrophe from you, just like the Qing Emperor 1,000 years ago. Kick, kick, kick. Suchen was so shocked that he backed away repeatedly. Catastrophe? Do I have the power of the epical catastrophe? The Demon Lord looked gloomy and glared at Suchen. This is why, Our six realms will do everything possible to suppress and destroy the great Yan Empire created by Qing Emperor, because we are too afraid. We are afraid that you are about to the catastrophe it will bring. Suchen's heart was already filled with turmoil. What the demon lord said was even more difficult to understand. After a long time, he asked, then why are you helping me like this? Aren't you afraid? The demon lord closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, his expression had returned to calm. He turned around and looked at the skyline of the ruined space, with a lonely smile, and said, I'm different from those guys like the Jade Emperor. I just hope that when the catastrophe comes again, you can let me see this world, the original appearance. He slowly turned around and looked at Suchen. Let me see what you are. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 512. The demon lord's words don't look like lies. But Suchen didn't dare to completely believe him. Especially the last few sentences, which almost clearly pointed out that Suchen was the catastrophe itself. I couldn't believe it. The two of them were silent in this ruined plain for a long time. Demon Lord said quietly, back then, before the troops were dismissed, Emperor Qing suddenly told me that 90% of the fragments of Tiangong creations he had collected were hidden in one of the wells of gods and demons. In plain. Only people with ancient sensing abilities or the blood of the Dragon King can find it. Seeing Suchen looking at him, Demon Lord smiled bitterly and said, at first, I didn't understand why I told you such an important thing, but now it seems that I clearly want me to tell you. Emperor Yan, listen. So, you are constantly searching for ancient secrets in these countless planes, and you may also want to find the 90% Tiangong creation fragments left by Qing Emperor, in order to try to resist the next epic catastrophe. It's just that, you haven't been able to find it until now, so that's why you need my help, right? Suchen sneered. Then what? After I find it, kill the donkey and get rid of me, and then you alone will get the 90% of the remaining scrolls of the Book of Heaven. The Demon Lord waved his hand. The Demon Lord, act with integrity and do not tell lies. I did have such a plan before. However, after seeing you in person, I gave up such thoughts. He stared at Suchen, with shock, dejection, and expectation in his eyes. He said in an emotional tone, it seems that you have discovered the secret of the origin of this world and reached the level that Qing Emperor also did back then. A state that has not been reached. The Demon Lord revealed Suchen's biggest secret with one word. Regardless of the other party's look of horror, he continued, I can't do anything to you anymore, so why do I need to do that useless thing? How about I help you and form a good relationship before you achieve greatness and awaken your true body? Maybe you can think of this favor in the future and spare my life when the catastrophe comes. Suchen raised his eyebrows slightly. The Demon Lord said this calmly. At that moment, he began to calm down. Using ancient sensing technique and his own Dragon Emperor bloodline, he concentrated on sensing what the Qing Emperor left behind. Suddenly, a familiar yet unfamiliar aura spread across the void of countless planes, causing Suchen's heart to move. He immediately raised his head and looked at a point in the void. His figure immediately turned into a stream of light, shooting towards that point in the void. In an instant, and then disappeared. The Demon Lord on the side was shocked. He subconsciously wanted to follow him. But after thinking about it, he smiled bitterly and said, since I have given up such thoughts, why should I be unwilling? That's all. After all, we can't covet such an opportunity, so we should keep our peace of mind and wait for his awakening. Suchen followed that breath. He actually traveled through countless planes along the way. In the dazzling and extremely dangerous plane turbulence, he unexpectedly entered a world of birds singing and flowers fragrant. This world is small. It is only about the size of a Jingtao city. But judging from Suchen's current level of understanding of the rules, although this world is small, it has all the internal organs. Even more perfect than his fire world. mountains, rivers, birds and beasts, insects and fish, flowers, plants, trees, blue sky, white clouds, and even underground magma and underground rivers, are all available. The elemental energy circulates around, and together with the cycle of birth, aging, sickness and death of all things, it runs perfectly in this small world. It is even infinitely close to the ancestral land, the divine world. However, even though it is infinitely close, it still does not reach the truly perfect world like the divine world. Judging from the power of the original rules that Suchen understood, this world still lacks an extremely critical thing, evolution. In other words, it is a jump in life level. All life in this small world starts over and over again, year after year, and is carried out meticulously according to the rules of the person who created this world. Life has been reproduced from generation to generation, and it remains the same as its original ancestors. But real life is not like this. It is natural selection, survival of the fittest, continuous progress, nature's movement, and a gentleman's constant self-improvement. It can even produce arrogant beings like the Ming-Seing ancient clan and humans, who are even bold enough to dare to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Creator God based on their own wisdom. This is the soul of a truly perfect world. However, it is still commendable to be able to build a world to such an extent. Because even the 6 realms can only reach this level. The lives born from the 6 realms themselves also do not have this talent for evolution. Only those gods and demons who migrated in from the outside world know how to keep making progress. It turns out that this is the 7th realm. My Fangyan realm can only be ranked as the 8th realm at best. Suchen thought to himself. This should be the world that the Qing Emperor from thousands of years ago created with his lifelong learning. He is indeed a genius. Suchen could understand many new rules from the operation of this world, which benefited him a lot. Walking around in this world, Suchen discovered that there was a set of exquisite little tricks hidden in the shade of the trees. The courtyard is located in the center of this world. Within 3 feet of the courtyard, the surrounding animals and birds cannot enter. It was obviously set up this way on purpose. Suchen ignored this rule and prohibition and stepped directly into the courtyard. There was something inside. It is extremely clean and tidy. The small courtyard is filled with colorful flowers and plants, and there is a catalpa tree on both sides. There is also a thatched pavilion on the left, with a stone table and 2 stone benches in the pavilion. On the stone table there were 2 jade cups and a pot of fine wine. Suchen went over and smelled it. The fine wine was well preserved, extremely fragrant and ready to drink at any time. The house was decorated like an ordinary house. All furniture was available. There was even a shortage of firewood, rice, oil, and salt in the kitchen. It looks extremely warm and full of life. At first glance, people think that this must be a happy and cozy nest for a couple. But the only thing missing is popularity. It is empty, giving people a feeling of loneliness. It seems that before the Qing Emperor was defeated, he must have lived here with his wife Luo Shen for a while, but now both of them have disappeared, and may never appear again. In a woodshed where farm tools were kept for chores, Suchen found a rusty sword and a dragon-shaped gold scabbard randomly thrown in the corner. Ding! Congratulations on getting the 5th Qingdi artifact that has lost its power. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the 6th Qingdi artifact that has lost its power and is incomplete. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 513. Listen to the system beeps in your head. Suchen was slightly surprised. The rusty sword in his hand seems to be the only god-level weapon among the 6 divine weapons. And the square dragon-shaped golden scabbard is a bit strange. It's obvious that some kind of subject is missing. Just when Suchen was confused, The Dragon King jade pendant that had been hanging on his waist suddenly floated up on its own. Then it was firmly embedded into the golden sheath in Suchen's hand, forming a complete gold-inlaid and jade-shaped dragon-shaped waist pendant. Ding! Congratulations on obtaining the 6th Kingdom artifact that has lost its power. The system prompt sounded again. Suchen was surprised. It turns out that this Dragon Emperor jade pendant brought from reality is actually part of the Qing Emperor's artifact. No wonder it has such magical properties. It can condense the surrounding energy and turn it into its own properties. At the same time, Suchen, who had collected the 6 artifacts, began to get excited. He clearly remembered the sentence in the description of the Qing Emperor's artifact: by gathering the 6 artifacts, you can slay the heavens and the earth, and sweep across the 6 realms of gods and demons. And now, he has gathered them all. Only the last step of integration is left. Anyway, there is no one here, so it is extremely safe. At that moment, he immediately started infinite fusion. Ding! Consume the number of super god level fusion times 10, and you will get the Qing Emperor artifact God Gu Wen Eternal 1. Ding! Consume the number of super god level fusion times 10, and you will get the Qing Emperor artifact God Dragon Emperor Jade Pendant 1. God Gu Wen Eternal, number of holes that can be embedded, 2. Level, artifact. Player restrictions, Junlin. Level requirement, level 100. Attack, 1 million. Additional attributes: health add 3000, constitution add 100, strength add 100, agility add 100, intelligence add 100, Yuan, 10% increase in basic attack attributes every day. Eternal Sky, consumes 50% of the upper limit of health, slashes a killing sword, and nothing can stop it. Description: Qing Qing of the Great Yan Empire. Thousands of years ago, one of the Emperor's peerless artifacts, with the 6 artifacts gathered together, it can slay the heavens and destroy the earth, and sweep across the 6 realms of gods and demons. God Dragon Emperor Jade Pendant. Level, artifact. Player restrictions, Junlin. Level requirement, level 100. Defense, 5000. Additional attributes: health add 3000, constitution add 100, strength add 100, agility add 100, intelligence add 100, defense. Additional attributes: the number increases daily. Howd, gain unlimited charm, worshipped by men and enamored by women. Description: one of the peerless artifacts of the Qing Emperor of the Great Yan Empire thousands of years ago. When 6 artifacts are gathered together, it can destroy the heaven and the earth, sweeping the 6 realms of gods and demons. The properties of both artifacts are extremely powerful. Especially that divine sword Gu Wen Wangu, which has 2 powerful attributes, Gu Wen and Eternal Sky. One that can infinitely enhance Suchen's attack attributes. The other is to sacrifice 50% of the upper limit of life in exchange for an invincible killing blow. This means that, equipped with this divine sword, Suchen can instantly kill with one sword even if he encounters powerful beings such as the Jade Emperor and the Demon Lord, the Lords of the 6 realms. Suchen immediately equipped these 2 artifacts. Buzz! It was as if the mecha was equipped with the last helmet, forming a perfect whole. Suchen's body immediately bloomed with extremely gorgeous and dazzling colorful lights. At the same time, there are 2 more attributes of the 6 artifact sets. 6 artifact set attributes, 4-side attack. You can add all the attack attributes of the Dragon Knight to yourself. There is no limit to the number. The effect lasts for 10 minutes and the cooling time is 1 natural day. 6 artifact set attributes, 5 smiling proudly. Once activated, everything in the world will turn into earth and stone in your eyes. You can kill it at will, regardless of any defensive means. The effect lasts for 1 hour, and the cooling time is 1 natural day. If 1, 2, and 3 of the 6 artifact set attributes are all defensive attributes, then, 4, and 5, are all attack attributes. These two, no matter which one of the big attack attributes is activated, it is enough for Suchen to gain supreme combat power that can destroy the heaven and the earth. At this point, although Suchen currently has basic attributes, he is still at the general level. But he has already gained the power for thousands of years. The powerful fighting power of the former Qing Emperor. If he goes to the 6 realms now, he will definitely be able to sweep away the gods and demons of the 6 realms, the Xiao Emperor, and Ao Tathagata. But he did not do this. Because there are more important, more powerful things here. A precious thing is waiting for him. As long as he gets that thing, Suchen will definitely be able to surpass the Qing Emperor of thousands of years ago and reach a truly supreme and world-class power that has never been seen before or will never come after. This thing is exactly Qing Di spent his whole life to collect 90% of the Tiangong creation magic. Suchen used the ancient sensing technique to sense it at will. He immediately locked on the 2 catalpa trees in front of the house. This bark texture turns out to be a mysterious regular rune. It seems that if you want to get the 90% magical information, you must unlock the secret rules set by the Qing Emperor. Suchen immediately recorded all the bark textures on the 2 catalpa trees, and then used the power of his own original rules to deduce. However, to his surprise and joy, the more he deduced, the more secrets he found about the rules and regulations he gained. This bark texture is not some kind of secret talisman at all, nor is it a lock that seals 90% of the divine magic. And it is basically the 90% divine art itself. He is worthy of being called an eternal emperor and a genius. He actually thought of using this method to store and hide the 90% divine magic. People who have the power of the original rules can naturally and quickly obtain these 90% divine magic through deduction. And those who do not have the power of the original rules must have more knowledge than the 90% divine magic if they want to unlock and deduce the secret talismans of this rule. However, with so much knowledge, they must no longer need the 90% divine magic. Skilled. While deducing, Suchen sighed in his heart. It seems that I was right to merge the relics of the heavenly book into the general outline of the heavenly book. Otherwise, even if I see the treasure now, I won't be able to get it. 12%. 13%. 14%. The amount of knowledge about the Tiangong creation magic in Suchen's soul began to increase steadily. It takes half an hour to get 1% of the information. When more information is obtained later, the speed of deduction begins to speed up. Suchen stood between the 2 catalpa trees for a whole day and a night. Finally, wait until the sun condensed with the divine power of light in the sky rises again. The morning glow fell on his handsome face. Buzz. An invisible wave suddenly shook around Suchen. He suddenly opened his eyes. Billions of mysterious rule runes appeared in his eyes, slowly rotating like a vast galaxy. Even his temperament began to change, becoming more ethereal and mysterious. 90% of the divine magic is in hand. Suchen smiled slightly and whispered to himself. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 514. At this time. Wow! The leaves shake. The 2 catalpa trees on the left and right suddenly began to sway and grow. The branches of the 2 trees extend and embrace each other. The roots of the trees below were tangled. It turned into a pair of branches. Immediately afterwards, the Luo Shen statue that had been in Suchen's backpack flew out automatically. Floating in mid-air, slowly shattered into light flowing across the sky. This stream of light flew around the small courtyard, returned to the bottom of the Lian Lizi, and returned to Suchen. Gradually, the image of a beautiful woman wearing a brocade robe emerged. The woman's figure is graceful and soft. The moment she stood there, all the colors of the world were concentrated on her, making people feel fascinated and unable to take their eyes away. For the first time, Suchen saw Luo Shen's face. I just feel that there is no one more beautiful than this in heaven and on earth. At the same time, he had a vague illusion that he saw Yun Fi Yian's face, Ji Mengli's face, Ying Ying, Ex Machina, Zhuwei, Ling Shuang, on the face of Luo Shen, Suchen when I was secretly shocked. Luo Shen gently opened her lips and moistened her lips, with infinite tenderness in her beautiful eyes. She looked at Suchen and said softly, "You are back." It looked like a wife who was staying at home, finally waiting for her husband who was away at war to come home. At this moment, Suchen, for some reason, felt infinite guilt and love in his heart, his eyes turned red, and he subconsciously said, "Well, I'm back unexpectedly." Luo Shen slowly shook his head and said softly, "I haven't come back completely yet, don't worry, I'm waiting for you here. When you find yourself, we will stay together under this branch and talk to you again." After saying that, the phantom of the goddess of Luo suddenly turned into points of light all over the sky, gathered into a volume statue of the god of Luo again, and returned to Suchen's space backpack. Seeing Luo Shen disappear, suddenly, a huge feeling of emptiness arose from the bottom of Suchen's heart. He stared blankly at the place where Luo Shen disappeared. It took him a long time to come back to his senses. Suchen recalled what Luo Shen said just now and frowned more and more. The ancient tree of life said, "I am the reincarnation of the Qing Emperor, and what will be awakened is not the consciousness of the Qing Emperor from thousands of years ago, but a supreme power that sweeps across the 6 realms and dominates me." But why does this Luo Shen say that I haven't found myself yet? Is this awakening really just a force? Who am I? Is it Suchen? Is it Subuking? Or something else? Suchen thought again. Previously, with a look of fear on his face, the demon lord pointed at himself and said that he was the disaster. But if I am the disaster, why don't I know it? If I really am the one who can destroy countless civilizations and races, why did he have to be reborn for 9 lives and put in countless sweats to get to where he is today? The words "reborn for 9 lives" came to mind. A chill suddenly rose from his back. Suchen looked at the backpack with horrified eyes, the share of Luo Shen's statue in space. Every time you are reborn, a pet will appear in reality. And it wasn't until this life that I discovered the tattoo of the goddess of Luo on Ex Machina's back for the first time, but presumably, the pets I acquired in other lives also had such tattoos. Kuabai said that this tattoo is not a tattoo, but an obsession and a residual thought. In other words, after the 9th reincarnation, Luo Shen's obsession will be with me. Why does she have such great power? How could he break through the 9th life and be reborn with everyone following me? Moreover, just a portrait and a shadow can directly conclude that I have not completely come back. Does she know who the real I is? Then, what kind of existence is she? At this moment, countless thoughts arose in Suchen's mind, nearly charging the entire soul sea. Suchen's eyes gradually turned red, and his face became ferocious, as if there were signs of being possessed. At this moment, inside his body, the power of the original rule suddenly moved. All the thoughts in the soul sea were deduced, refined, and the best ones were eliminated. Finally, they were condensed into one sentence. All illusions must be destroyed with force. Suchen took a deep breath, and his face became calm again. There was a trace of fear in his eyes. Almost possessed. Oh, why should I rush to find these so-called truths now? After I perfect all the rules and achieve the great road, I can deduce the past and the future. When the time comes, all the truth will naturally appear in front of me. Suchen now possesses 90% of the information on the divine art of creation. The 10% of the information given by the demon lord is repeated with the 90% of the information. Including the 9 fragments of the heavenly book given by the ancient tree of life, the 9% of the fused 90% of the information also overlaps with 90% of King Di's information. Obviously, these fragments of the book of heaven left by the ancient tree of life were also used by King Di to copy or comprehend. The magical information that Suchen really possessed, aside from those that are duplicates, are around 93%. There are still 7% missing. In other words, even if I use the infinite fusion talent to fuse the same fragment of heavenly book into fragment of heavenly book, most of the information contained in it will overlap with the original version. It seems that the remaining 7% can only be integrated by myself. Now he activated the infinite fusion talent again. Ding. The minimum number of super god level fusions currently required for fusion, 1295 times. Ding. It is detected that there are fragments of divine power *20 in the current fusion, which can greatly reduce the number of super god level fusions required for fusion. The minimum number of super god level fusions required for fusion, 1015 times. Whether to enable. Hearing the system prompt, Suchen was thoughtful. Has it been reduced to 1015 times? Are you going to kill 2 more gods to get the power of the gods? Or just wait for the number of super god level fusions to accumulate? The number of super god level fusions he has accumulated now is 317. Even if he returns to Fire World and accelerates the time 10 times, it would still take 34 days to accumulate 1015 times. Accumulation is too slow. Then kill him. Nowadays, these deities are just like pigs and dogs to me. If they don't kill a lot of people, how can they be worthy of this weapon in my hand? Thoughts together. Suchen, who was decisive in killing, immediately left this small world. Returned to the ruins before. The demon lord is still waiting here. Seeing Suchen, he was shocked and said with a bit of surprise on his face, "You got the 90%, hiss." When he saw Suchen holding the familiar sword Gu Wen Eternal, the demon lord was once again reminded of the past of the Qing emperor who swept through the 6 realms 1,000 years ago. Looking at Suchen, who was full of murderous intent and unparalleled vigor, the demon lord seemed to be facing the Qing emperor directly, facing an unrivaled terrifying existence. For the first time in 1,000 years, a feeling of weakness and powerlessness arose in his heart. He looked at Suchen in shock, not even daring to move. The hairs on my back stood up and cold sweat poured down my face. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 515. Suchen glanced at the demon lord in front of him with an indifferent expression and said, "I won't kill you." The demon lord trembled. The face full of horror slowly calmed down. Suchen was about to leave. Suddenly he seemed to remember something, turned around and asked, "How much do you know about Luo Shen, the wife of the Qing emperor thousands of years ago? What is her origin?" The demon lord breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Luo Shen is a goddess in the heaven, with a very special status. It seems that even the Jade Emperor dare not do anything to her, and her appearance is absolutely beautiful. She is the most beautiful person in the 6 realms. As for her origin, isn't she the same as the Jade Emperor and others?" Wait. Demon Lord seemed to suddenly remember. What? His face instantly became a little frightened, and he said, "No. The Jade Emperor once mentioned to me that this Luo Shen didn't seem to be with their heaven, but hundreds of millions of years ago, when the heaven was first born, suddenly appeared in the heaven, and then formed a realm of its own, and no one could get close to it. Even the Jade Emperor was lustful and wanted to be frivolous, but he failed. At that time, I thought that the Jade Emperor was a gentleman, and when Luo Shen refused, he took the initiative to retreat. Now that I think about it, I'm afraid that's not the case at all." Correct. When I first saw her tens of millions of years ago, I felt that her aura was strange. Now that I think about it, this aura is clearly like you, like the Qing Emperor. It is also the aura of catastrophe. It's just not that obvious and flamboyant. The more the demon lord spoke, the more horrified he became. Thinking that such a being who also has the power of catastrophe has survived in the 6 realms with him for hundreds of millions of years. I didn't even care. Suddenly, a sense of fear rose from the bottom of my heart. The hair on your hair stands on end. Haha, as expected. After listening to the memories of the demon lord, Suchen showed a sneer. Then he turned into a stream of light, left the ruins, and returned to the well of gods and demons. Then he quickly locked on the 5 gods, demons, ghosts, and bliss. In the plane of the world, I randomly found one of the worlds and passed over it in a flash. In the ruins plane. It took a long time to see Suchen leaving. Only then did the demon lord take a deep breath. There was still a look of horror on his face. He knows. Just now, he had just walked through the hell gate. If Suchen had insisted on killing him just now, even if he was the demon lord and the lord of a realm, he would never be able to make a move in Suchen's hands. Just one day ago, although I couldn't kill him, he couldn't do anything to me, but just one day later, he actually had the unparalleled combat power of the Qing Emperor and the Qing Emperor's eternal sword. This terrifying speed of strength growth is too abnormal. Demon Lord let out a sigh of relief again. Ho said fearfully, fortunately, I made a good relationship before and gained face, otherwise, I would have already lost my temper just now. Die. At that moment he shook his head. So sad. After a while, he suddenly sneered again. It's ridiculous that the 5 realms of heaven, God, demon, ghost, and bliss are still thinking about waiting for June to enter the 5 realms, relying on the power of their top gods, plus the power of some of the rules they master in each of the 5 realms, to suppress them powerfully. This Emperor Yan snored. Now this Emperor Yan is full of murderous aura, I'm afraid his target is your 5 realms. Do you want to kill Emperor Yan? Ha, I wonder what wonderful expressions you will have when you see your prey suddenly turning into an apex predator? I'm really looking forward to it. At that moment, the demon lord flashed back to the demon realm. And immediately issued an order to list Suchen, as well as all lovers, friends, accomplices, followers, all related to Suchen as taboos in the entire demon world. Anyone who dares to touch it will die. The demon lord knows that from now on, there will be another legend in this world and in these 6 realms. And this legendary master is Junlin, the Yandi Emperor. Suchen entered the world at will. Unexpectedly, it was actually the paradise. With his hundreds of billions of reputation in the paradise. Even a flying insect in the paradise will attack Suchen with red eyes. Not to mention those novices, arhats, bodhisattvas, and buddhas. Ah! It's Emperor Yan coming. Express and Realm Lord. Stop him. You thief of Junlin, you dare to break into my paradise land without permission, I will fight with you. For a moment, it was like poking a honeycomb. More and more gods and Buddhas rushed towards Suchen. But those bodhisattvas who had reached the main god level retreated to the back and did not dare to come into contact with Suchen. The latter gave a sinister smile. No need. Weapon, hit the air with both fists. Activate God descends to earth. Kill gods and Buddhas all the way. No one can stop it. Above the paradise, the originally peaceful place instantly turned into a hell, and blood rained down. It didn't take long. The sky suddenly burst into golden light. There were bursts of Sanskrit sounds. A huge surge of Supreme Buddha power blew in like a breeze. All the corpses and plasma of the gods and Buddhas that passed along the way were wiped out. Countless people who were not afraid of death and surrounded Suchen. The gods and Buddhas immediately stopped, with extremely excited expressions on their faces. They clasped their hands together and bowed down in unison. I am the Buddha. Suchen looked up. He saw a gigantic Buddha 90,000 miles above the sky sitting on a lotus platform, with golden clouds surrounding him. He had kind eyebrows and kind eyes, holding flowers in his hand and smiling. He looked down at Suchen with a look of pity on his face. Your Majesty, now that I have reached the ultimate bliss, why not put down the butcher knife and become a Buddha immediately? Behind him, on the left and right, there is an ancient world protecting Venerable. One is the Maitreya Buddha who had met Suchen before, but was defeated by Suchen and fled in a hurry. The other is a person with a level of strength. Pure Buddha who is still above Maitreya Buddha. Maitreya Buddha has lost a lot of face with Suchen. Now seeing that the other party has fallen into a trap, he laughed and said, Junlin, I forgive you. Even the great divine power cannot resist me, Buddha Tathagata, in this realm of bliss. Don't say that I, Buddha Tathagata, have the supreme magical power. The supreme power of rules that controls this realm of bliss is enough to crush you into powder. Suchen ignored the shouts of Maitreya Buddha. He looked at Tathagata high in the sky and smiled with satisfaction. Everyone is here, that's good. Then he activated the 6 artifact set attributes, 5 swordsmen. Once activated, everything in the world will turn into earth and stone, which can be killed at will, regardless of any defensive means. The effect lasts for 1 hour, and the cooling time is 1 natural day. In an instant, everything under the sky, from the Tathagata and the Buddha to the novice monks and spiritual beasts, were all turned into earth and stone in his eyes. Suchen stretched out his right hand and took the artifact Gyuin Eternal. The Tathagata sitting in the sea of golden clouds had sharp eyes. Seeing the familiar divine sword in Suchen's hand, his eyes and pupils immediately shrank. He said in shock, you actually. Suchen slashed with one sword. Ignore space, ignore time, ignore everything in the world. In the sea of golden clouds, the 90,000-mile-tall Tathagata immediately split into 2 halves in the sky. The lotus pedestal under his seat also cracked silently, and the cut surface was smooth and flat. The lord of a realm cannot stop his sword. In this way, it can be called smiling proud. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 516. Ding. Congratulations on successfully killing the Lord of Paradise, Tathagata. Gain experience points *1 trillion. Obtain power of God *10,000. Your reputation in the paradise is -1 trillion. Easily catching all the power of the gods exploded by Tathagata, Suchen grinned and looked at the ancient world protectors on both sides. Buddha Maitreya, who was still mocking, immediately seemed to be strangled by the neck. Like a duck. No more words could come out of his mouth. Looking at the Tathagata realm lord who was silently divided into 2 halves, and looking at Suchen below who looked like a devil in his eyes, Maitreya Buddha was extremely frightened. His limbs were cold and his fat body was trembling. The pure Buddha on the side was also shaken and looked extremely frightened. You, how dare you kill me, Buddha Tathagata? Pure Buddha pointed at Suchen with trembling fingers and said in a trembling voice. Do you know that even the Qing emperor from thousands of years ago would not dare to kill me, the Tathagata realm master? You are so bold. Suchen doesn't care what he says. In his eyes, these Buddhas are just walking power of gods. At the moment, 2 swords swish. Ding. Congratulations on successfully killing the intermediate deity Maitreya Buddha in the paradise of paradise. Gain experience points *100 trillion. Obtain power of God *5. Your reputation in the paradise is -100 trillion. Ding. Congratulations on successfully killing the high-level deity of the paradise realm Pure Buddha. Gain experience points *1000 trillion. Obtain power of God *50. Your reputation in the paradise is -1000 trillion. Suddenly, together with the Tathagata realm lord, the 3 great Buddhas fell in the air. The hundreds of millions of gods, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas who were still kneeling on the ground seemed as if the sky had fallen. They almost fainted and screamed all over the place. Suchen collected there are more than 10,000 copies of Power of God. At this moment, No matter that I am surrounded by billions of gods and Buddhas, I directly activate the infinite fusion talent in the air. Start fusion. Ding. The minimum number of super god level fusions currently required for fusion, 1295 times. Ding. It is detected that you currently have fragments of the divine power 20 and power of the divine 10055, which can greatly reduce the number of super god level fusions required for fusion. The minimum number of super god level fusions required for fusion, 1 time. Whether to enable. Enable. Consumes power of God 8, super god level fusion times 1 times, fusion is in progress. Ding. Fusion successful. Congratulations, your Tiangong creation magic has reached 100% perfection. The moment the fusion was successful, a kind of great joy suddenly rose in Suchen's heart. His eyes slowly closed. He allowed the power of the original rules to reorganize thousands of small rules in the Soul Sea. At the same time, his body, his soul also underwent qualitative changes along with this reorganization. After a long time, he opened his eyes. Suchen was still the same Suchen. Junlin was still the same Junlin. It seemed that there was no change at all. Even the general god level that had escaped before the breath and the majesty of Emperor Yan disappeared. He turned into the most ordinary Suchen. Just like the young Suchen in the first life who was the same as all the players. He chuckled and stretched out his hand to grab. The surrounding space, gods Buddha, Bodhisattva, grass, trees, earth, and rocks, twisted and gathered in an instant, and then gathered into a glass bead the size of an egg in his hand. This glass bead was the realm of bliss. It was so easily absorbed by him in his hand. Looking at the paradise in his hand, a hint of enlightenment came to his heart. Suchen looked at the chaos and nothingness around him and murmured, fusion, keep merging. As long as the 6 realms, the entire divine continent, and even countless fragments of planes, including chaos and nothingness, are integrated into my flame realm, then, all the truth of this world will be known. He, who has perfected and harmonized the divine art of creation, is now like the God of creation. In his eyes, the 6 realms are just like glass beads on the table, which can be collected casually. Heaven, gods, ghosts, demons, all at once. The 6 realms entered the dendrobium and floated around Suchen, slowly rotating. And the hundreds of millions of gods and demons in the 6 realms didn't even know what was happening. Suchen thought for a while, and took the space-time fortress still floating in the abyss beside him. Huh? Master, how did we get here? Where is this place? Why is there nothing? Yingying ran out, looked at the chaos and nothingness around her, and wondered in her heart. Originally, even if Yingying was as powerful as a god, she couldn't survive in the chaos. But here, Suchen is the creation god. If you want Yingying to move freely in the chaos, then move freely. He is the Dharma, and he is the master of all rules. Soon, the women, Lu Yuanzong, Gadling Bodhisattva, 12 ancient beasts, including those who have not yet levaden, who came out of isolation, ran out of the time and space fortress. Looking at the chaos around him, he was extremely surprised. Lu Yuanzong said in horror, this is the chaos outside the 6 realms. If the gods and demons touch you, you will die. How can we walk in chaos at will? Is this chaos? It doesn't look very good either. Ji Mengli casually dusted the grey chaos around her and said with a curl of her lips. If it were normal, Ji Mengli would definitely be assimilated into the chaos and nothingness immediately and be classified as chaos together. But here, it's like dust and smoke are being brushed away. Lu Yuanzong even doubted whether this was the terrifying chaos in the legend. Immediately afterwards, Ji Mengli discovered 6 colored glass balls surrounding Suchen. She said in surprise, wow! What a beautiful glass ball! Ding sound. Ji Mengli flicked a cyan glass ball. The glass ball trembled. But inside the cyan glass ball, that is, in the heaven, a huge shock suddenly occurred. Countless palace buildings collapsed. The earth opened up with terrifying fissures. Billions of divine soldiers and generals fell and rolled down. Even the Jade Emperor who was sitting on the throne, even his imperial crown fell off. What happened? How could there be such a big earthquake in my heaven? The Jade Emperor tightly controlled his figure and exclaimed with a pale face. Outside. Levaden couldn't help but walked over, randomly picked up a white glass ball, put it in front of his eyes, looked at it, and shook it to his ear. Then he threw it back with a look of disgust on his face. He curled his lips and said, "What the hell? The smell is weird, nothing can be seen. And this white glass ball is the world of gods." For a time, in the god realm, everyone from the god king to the angels were rolling down and shaking like gourds. The screams and screams shook the heavens. The divine realm has been established for hundreds of millions of years, and it has never suffered such a big natural disaster. Could it be that the Qing emperor has awakened? King Di called, the god king said with an extremely frightened face. For just a moment, he seemed to see an eye that was bigger than the entire god realm, staring at them. The god king was frightened, and after thinking about it, except for the awakening of the Qing emperor, there was no other way. People can have such great power. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 517. Suchen knew in his heart the unexpected disaster in the heaven and god realms, but he did not say it out loud. Instead, he smiled softly. Keep scraping. Soon. In the doubtful eyes of Zhu Nu, Li Vaden, Lu Yuanzong, and others. Countless planes in the well of gods and demons, including the land of Tianyuan, were all captured by him. These broken planes looked like fine dust, gathering around Suchen, and eventually turned into a disk-like stardust, slowly rotating. The 6 realms, which are like glass balls, are rotating around Suchen within this disk. Immediately afterwards, Suchen's eyes narrowed. Start capturing the divine world. The divine world is no better than the 6 realms, it is a perfect big world. Has the power of complete rules. Trying to grab it out seemed a bit difficult even for Suchen. At the same time, the chaotic void where Suchen was also vibrating in waves as he grabbed it. The divine world, for the first time in countless billions of years, left its place and began to twist, deform, shrink, and slowly flew towards Suchen. The billions of players who were still spawning monsters and completing tasks in the world of God's domain suddenly felt the inexplicable vibrations in the world around them, and were horrified. What's the situation? Earthquake? Is there any big boss coming soon? Oops. I'm dizzy, some pretty girl please help me? Li Vaden felt this inexplicable vibration and said with horror, this is the vibration of the divine world. Immediately afterwards, he looked at Suchen with great horror. What on earth are you doing, Lu? Yuanzong finally realized something was wrong. While feeling the vibration, he looked at the glass beads and dust particles swirling around Suchen, until his eyes finally fell on the cyan glass ball. He was in heaven. Having lived for hundreds of millions of years, he is so familiar with the aura of heaven. This azure glass ball clearly has the aura of heaven. His eyes suddenly stared, and he exclaimed, is this the heaven, and, those few, could it be, oh my god. Lu Yuanzong looked at Suchen in great shock, and lost his voice. Master, could it be that you, actually took in all the 6 realms? These 6, are they the 6 realms? Hearing Lu Yuanzong's exclamation, Li Vaden, the women, and others were suddenly shaken. Li Vaden's eyes widened and he said to Lu Yuanzong in disbelief, What did you just say? These 6 glass balls are the 6 realms. Then the glass ball I shook just now is. Lu Yuanzong said solemnly, if my prediction is correct, The white glass ball you are shaking should be from the God realm. Levaton opened his mouth wide. After a while, he murmured, that is to say, I just played a game of God realm. This feeling seems not bad. Levaton stared at the other 5 glass balls, with a look of eagerness in his eyes. Suchen's autism, which had been severely beaten by Suchen before, was immediately thrown away by him. What about me? What about me? Which realm did I just play? Excitement also surged in Ji Mengli's beautiful eyes. Lu Yuanzong looked a little helpless, but also a little amused and said, it's the heaven. I guess what you did just now, my little master, must have caused quite a shock in the heaven. Haha. So interesting. I really want to play it again. Ji Mengli clapped her little hands and said happily. Even the girls such as Yingying and Ex Machina looked ready to make a move. At this moment, Suchen shouted softly, God's domain. Return. In an instant. From the chaotic void in the far distance, a dark blue elliptical spherical object suddenly flew out. It was about the size of a basketball. But it was like a living thing, like a heart, beating constantly, making bang 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 sounds. Bang bang sound. This sound vibrated, and it was able to destroy the surrounding chaos and nothingness. Seeing the dark blue elliptical object that kept beating in front of him, Suchen's face became serious for the first time. Lu Yuanzong and others saw this dark blue object is also full of horror. This is the divine world. Anyone who saw this constantly beating thing would find it extremely strange. No matter what, they could not connect it with the big world. But Suchen nodded slowly and said, yes, this is the God's domain world. It is also the heart of the surrounding chaos and nothingness. All things and the 6 realms are born because of it, and perhaps they will also perish because of it. Levaton and others were shocked and speechless. Staring at the constantly beating God's world and Suchen, he felt as if something extremely terrifying and important was about to happen. However, Suchen stretched out his hand and waved it. Take everyone back to the time and space fortress. Then the space-time fortress turned into a diamond-like crystal and integrated into Suchen's body. Then, he slowly closed his eyes. He began to gather the beating godly world in front of him, the 6 realms, the countless plane dusts surrounding him, and even the infinite chaotic void around him, towards himself, towards the fire realm in the time and space fortress, or even merge. With the power of perfect rules he now controls. This method of fusion has already surpassed the infinite fusion talent in the God's Domain online game. It no longer requires super god level fusion times to fuse these worlds. Instead, with the power of the original rules, these worlds, which were originally composed of various rules, were unified and integrated into one. However, this fusion process was beyond Suchen's expectations. Under the deduction and integration of the power of the original rules, these worlds did not merge into the fire world created by Suchen. Instead, all worlds and planes, including fire world, are merging with Suchen himself. The constantly beating godly world slowly moved towards Suchen's heart. Seeing this scene that was beyond his expectations, Suchen suddenly opened his eyes. There is a trace of throbbing, a trace of astonishment, a trace of understanding and a trace of surprise in the eyes. Ah! It turns out that Demon Lord was right. What a disaster for me. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 518. Suchen came to his senses. Simply let go of all control now. Let the power of the original rule slowly merge the worlds, planes, and chaotic voids towards where they should go. As the surrounding chaos and nothingness were absorbed into Suchen's body, the earth, which was originally enveloped by the divine world, slowly emerged again. The water is still blue. It's just that all the humans above have disappeared. At the same time, the huge dark energy cluster covering the entire solar system, even the Milky Way, and further distant galaxies was slowly absorbed into Suchen's body. When everything shrinks, gathers, and merges to the extreme, Suchen himself began to slowly change. The body slowly becomes fluffy and enlarged, until it changes into a dense mass of dark energy again, and then rapidly expands in size. Beyond Earth. Beyond the solar system. Beyond the galaxy. It didn't stop until it enveloped hundreds of surrounding galaxies. At the same time, an extremely loud and terrifying sound was heard in these hundreds of galaxies, among the billions of living planets in these hundreds of galaxies, and in the fusion of the flame realm, God realm, six realms, and countless broken planes. In the new world, slowly echoing in the ears of hundreds of millions of gods and demons, in the gods' domain and all races, and in the ears of countless players. It turns out, this is me. For a while, countless people who were enveloped by Suchen's dark energy group all had expressions of horror. This sound is like a nightmare, like a natural enemy, and like an irresistible master to all living things. In an instant, it evoked the deepest fear of the epical catastrophe in all living beings. The five realm masters, including the Jade Emperor, the Demon Queen, the God King, the Ghost King, and the Demon Lord, were even more frightened to the point where their dead souls were expelled. This is, the sound of catastrophe. Is the catastrophe of the new era coming again? It turns out that the great earthquake in my heaven before was actually a sign of an impending catastrophe. The poor world has been peaceful for hundreds of millions of years. Will it finally come to an end? In the demon realm, the demon lord took a deep breath after being extremely shocked. Then under the surprised eyes of the two god-level concubines. As the lord of the realm, he actually bowed respectfully to the sky 3 times. Xiao Emo would like to congratulate Emperor Yan on his successful awakening. Finally a great road. After hearing the words of their husband, the demon lord, the two concubines were even more horrified. Emperor Yan. This catastrophe, is actually that Emperor Yan. Fire World. When Yun Feiyan and the other girls heard the familiar yet unfamiliar voice in their ears, their beautiful eyes were filled with shock. Lu Yuanzone was originally wiping his beloved divine halberd. Hearing this sound, he couldn't even hold the divine halberd, and it fell to the ground with a clang. Is this, the master's voice? My master, turned out to be the catastrophe that destroyed countless civilizations and countless eras. Levaden was so frightened that he sat down on the ground. This proud and arrogant ocean overlord who was not afraid of the sky or the earth instantly turned pale as paper. At the same time, the scenes of his interactions with Suchen were like images in his mind. Flash like lightning. Levaden, yes, let's get to know each other again. My name is Levaden, which means Dan from the rising red sun, which means Rishon Dot. Suchen, why do you want to help me? Levaden, because helping you fight will give me a sense of accomplishment. Seeing how embarrassed you are, you really feel a sense of accomplishment. Come on, let me teach you. Suchen, look around you, there are so many people, I am the weakest. Don't worry, when you go to the land of Tianyuan, Brother Rishon will take the lead. We will all follow you and we will never steal your limelight. Yes, he's still as weak as before. What's wrong, Brother Rishon? No. You see, I have changed my career and stopped doing close combat. Now I only dare to stand in the distance and shoot arrows. Thinking about the past scenes, Levaden's eyes began to burst into tears. Your sister. I bumped into a ghost, and I actually came to you to gain a sense of accomplishment. A catastrophe that destroyed the world and changed the era. Why on earth are you telling me that you are weak? I still believed your ghost. Fraud. What a liar. Big liar. After one day, in the small world created by Qing Emperor himself, an elegant and handsome figure suddenly appeared among them. Take a leisurely step and arrive under the branches of the warm courtyard. He smiled slightly, took out a Luo Shen statue from his arms, and placed it in the void. The portrait scattered into pieces of light that filled the sky, and once again condensed into a beautiful woman wearing a brocade robe. She fluttered her long eyelashes, slowly raised her eyes, and looked at the man in front of her. Suddenly he smiled. Thousands of emotions are gathered in it. He said softly, "You are finally back." The man hugged her gently, smelled the fragrance of her hair, and said softly, "Yes, I'm back, thank you for your hard work over the past countless billions of years." Luo Shen shook his head slowly, looked at the man in front of him tenderly, and said softly, "It's not hard." Then he said with some fear, "It would be the best to come back. We, the Dark Energy Group, have no distinction between good and evil. We have devoured each other and fought countless battles. The last battle was too dangerous. You were seriously injured and your consciousness was almost wiped out. Fortunately, we finally reunited. This is fortunately." Suchen hugged the beautiful woman in his arms, recalling the process of reuniting his consciousness and feeling a little scared. If it weren't for the unwavering guidance and help of the lover in his arms, whether he could gather his consciousness now is a matter of debate. Fortunately, after hundreds of millions of years of nourishment and guidance from Luo Shen, he finally gathered some hazy consciousness thousands of years ago. This bit of consciousness transformed into Subuking, walking in the divine world that Luo Shen helped him condense. In the big world, accelerate the recovery of consciousness. After that, Subuking realized that he was incomplete, and many mysteries in his heart could not be solved. Then the cauldron was broken and the boat was destroyed, and the soldiers were dissolved and reincarnated again. Transformed into Suchen and lived through 9 lives. The self of the 9th life is not complete, so the Luo Shen will start the reincarnation again. Even some of the own failures were pets transformed from Luo Shen Canyon at the beginning, and were killed directly, or some kind of alternative strategy. After going through this cycle, reorganizing and improving my consciousness step by step, I finally reached this step. The dangers and hardships involved are self-evident. The demon lord said before that the terrifying existence he felt in the divine realm and above the 6 realms seemed to be just acting on instinct and was a stick maker. Frankly speaking, demon lord was really right. Suchen, who had not fully regained consciousness, had really acted on instinct earlier. Luo Shen wanted to help him regain his consciousness. He will transform and evolve countless lives in the Milky Way, Andromeda, and other galaxies shrouded by his dark energy cluster, and then form civilizations one by one. Then it merged into a big world similar to online games. The original intention was to use the consciousness of countless beings in these civilizations to guide and nourish Suchen's consciousness that was on the verge of collapse. It's just that Suchen was ignorant at that time, relying only on the instinct to devour the dark energy mass to continuously devour and destroy the civilizations that Luo Shen had worked hard to create. And this was what the Demon Lord and others called the Era Catastrophe. Thank you, thank you. Suchen held the beauty in his arms tightly, feeling infinite emotion and love in his heart. There are more than hundreds of millions of dark energy groups in this universe. Among them, very few can give birth to consciousness. And people like him and Luo Shen, who can know each other, fall in love and stay together, are even rarer and rarer. A long time. The two separated. Luo Shen's long eyelashes trembled, as if she had thought of something, and she waved her hand gently. In an instant, 6 peerless beauties appeared around Suchen. Astonishingly, it was Yun Fi Yian, Ji Mengli, Yingying, Ex Machina, Nine Tails, Ling Shuang and other 6 girls. Looking at the scene around them, the 6 women looked very shocked. However, with the true form of Luo Shen nearby, Yun Fi Yian and others were a little cautious and did not dare to speak. He just focused his doubtful beautiful eyes on Suchen. Luo Shen rolled his eyes lightly at Suchen and said angrily, "In order to help you, my consciousness has been divided a lot, although they are all formed from my residual thoughts, They have now become one entity of their own and cannot be taken back. What are you going to do? Well. Suchen touched his nose and said seriously. Since it's all you, I will take responsibility. How to be responsible? Well, let's do this month, I will only spend time with you. What about next month, let's sleep together. Spit. You are so beautiful. Complete the book. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 519. The Land of the Abyss. A desolate floating island. The war overlord, who had not slept a wink for more than 10 days, had red eyes and a hideous face. Black and red blood stains were almost all over his body. His aura has been greatly enhanced compared to the last time he met Suchen. I just killed a general-level god demon by myself, and the danger was so great that I almost narrowly escaped death. He was out of strength and hid in the rock crevices of the floating island to seize the time to rest. The bloodshot eyes revealed a ferocious look like a beast. Hold on for another 10 days, War Overlord, believe in yourself. If you persist for another 10 days, you will definitely reach the same strength as that guy. Nothing can defeat you. Even that guy named Junlin, that pretentious guy, can't. You will soon surpass him. You will soon regain your own glory. At this moment, Suchen's terrifying voice spread throughout the Tianyuan land. It also sounded in the ears of the war overlord. His tiger body trembled. The weapon he had always regarded as his life also fell to the ground. His eyes suddenly became dull. Get up. This is King's Landing. He is Havoc. With a bang, the belief in the war overlord's mind collapsed. At the same time, Suchen became a shadow that could not be erased in his life. The same thing also happens in countries around the world in the Divine Continent. The king of country M's eyes widened. He almost stared out his eyes and said in horror, we are actually living in his shadow. And the kind that can destroy us with just a single thought. Some top scientists, after this period of analysis, finally analyzed the space dark energy observation data copied into the game through special means before the Miracle Online game came. They were extremely horrified at the kings, queens, and kings of various countries. Elder Hui reported after our careful analysis. The dark energy that surrounds our Earth, including the entire solar system and even the Milky Way, has an energy oscillation frequency similar to that just now. Having said this, the scientist in charge of the report swallowed his saliva, his eyes full of horror and disbelief, and continued. The frequency of the announcement of King's Landing just now is exactly the same. That is to say, the scientist who reported the report had great difficulty in stating a fact: the dark energy that surrounds our Earth and even the Milky Way is actually King's Landing, is not one of us humans. He is a more advanced life form, some kind of dark energy life. Hearing this conclusion, everyone in the scene was so shocked that they were speechless. I dare you that Junlin, whom they regard as the leader of mankind, is not actually a member of their human race, but a dark energy life. I told you so early. The king of country M's face instantly turned red, like a furious lion, and he wanted to burst out and curse. But then he looked over his head and shrank his head sharply. But the next words can no longer be said. The elders and queens of other countries were also speechless. Some people have even speculated whether even the human civilization they are proud of is affected by this dark energy. Are ancient myths also true? It was also under the influence of this dark energy group that it was born. Then it disappeared because of the departure of the dark energy group. Online games, I really don't want to have unlimited fusion. Author, 7 years. Chapter 520. No matter how much the human world marvels and fears Suchen's strength, Suchen is planning to discuss creating a small world with Luo Shen. Because Suchen discovered, although he has now successfully awakened his consciousness, but there are still a few flaws in it. Taking advantage of the temporary lull in the war between the dark energy groups. Just improve your consciousness first. But fortunately, you have successfully awakened now, and you no longer need to fight to perfect your consciousness. Luo Shen snuggled into Suchen's arms and said softly, all you need to do is separate out those flawed soul thoughts, turn them into an individual, re-enter the reincarnation, and then take them back after they are perfected. Hearing Luo Shen's words, Suchen nodded. Good. In this case, let's get started. What kind of world are you planning to create this time? Luo Shen thought for a while and said with a smile, of fantasy world, well, the kind of time travel. Suchen smiled and shook his head. With a thought in his mind, a trace of flawed soul thought in his soul was immediately separated. Beside him, he transformed into a young man who looked exactly like Suchen. Luo, is the world ready? All right. This world is very simple and doesn't take much time. Luo Shen said with a smile. Immediately, a 3-meter diameter black hole appeared in front of the two of them. Suchen immediately pushed the other self that he had turned into with his soul thought into the black hole with one palm. In a blink of an eye, then disappear. I don't know how long it will take to perfect the soul thought, Suchen murmured. Luo Shen smiled and said it should be very soon. Perhaps, my husband's soul thought will only need a few years, or even a few months, to be perfected and awakened. Haha, I'll lend you some good luck then. Inside the black hole, another Suchen gradually woke up after entering a strange world. When I opened my eyes, I saw a sloppy old man in front of me. Boy, I see that your hall is dark, your eyes are dull, and the god of bad luck is shining brightly on your head. This is a very bad sign. Suchen regretted sitting in front of the fortune-telling stall and listening to this fat old man's deception. When he wasn't smiling, the old man looked like a liar with a fairy-like demeanor. When he smiled, he had big yellow teeth, wrinkled face, and that sly look. With his ugly eyes, he could only think of one word to describe this old man: wretched. This fat old man actually charged him a deposit fee of 5 yuan before he had his fortune told. He said that young people nowadays are too bad to tell his fortune. There are more and more people who don't give me money. Well, I've already given them money anyway, so I wonder how could this old man fool me. Suchen covered his nose and listened to this old man's bad breath. You do not believe? The old man asked Suchen with his eyes wide open. Suchen nodded very honestly. The old man gritted his teeth and thought for a while, then slapped his leg and said, you are a loser as mentioned on the internet, right? Suchen looked at his clothes and shoes, which cost less than 200 yuan, touched his ordinary face, and nodded speechlessly. Brother, I have such an obvious loser style, old man, do you even think about it? This is so unprofessional. After secretly complaining, Suchen stretched out a finger and shook it, indicating that this was not enough to fool him.